Well, hello everyone, and we are coming up to two races to go in the season. Things are heating up. We will obviously get to the very end of this, but we got still got a very sizable race to discuss. Quite a few talking points, quite a few things being discussed, quite a few things not being discussed as well. I need to address certainly one of those subjects. And so what we're going to be doing is we'll do exactly the same as we normally do. We do our undervalued winners, let's say, the guys that have performed really well, perhaps haven't hit the headlines. Um, we'll discuss a subject that I don't think people are discussing, and then we'll discuss the subjects that everyone's been discussing. Yeah, sound good? All right, let's get on with it. Undervalued winners. I got two, and those of you that watch regular videos here might be noticing a little bit of an agenda. So I will adjust that. Don't worry, I'll address that. So I want to start off with Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz has did incredible over the weekend. Qualified, I think was it fourth. Ended up like fifth and sixth. Like really starting to show some back the Carlos Sainz that we had from not even last year. I'd say a couple of years ago, where he was like really getting to the groove of things, almost like how he was in the Singapore Grand Prix when he won. That sort of level of skill, and I'm really happy to see him back and smiling. And maybe Williams is starting to come back from the from their almost their slump, let's say, in the 90s and 2000s. But I also want to address, and this is where the agenda might be coming from, Isaac Hadjar. My God, this kid has been incredible this year. Another top performance, another top qualifying, um, and really showcasing um, the level of skill. I think it's almost come as a little bit of a surprise, despite the fact that obviously he was, I think was it second in F2 last season, behind Bortoletto. I feel like he's been a bright spark. Almost, I'd almost consider him my driver of the year with the circumstances, the car, just everything. um, I feel like he has been one of the best, and look, he's being touted for the Red Bull seat. I just hope Red Bull sort out their issues for next year because I really don't want him to fail. I mean, I think I'm in this situation. Look, I'm a Hamilton fan, right? I think I've said that multiple times, and I know we're coming up to the end of it, of his time racing. And normally, when you get into that situation, you end up going, well, which driver am I going to follow next? And I'm starting to feel like I like Isaac Hadjar so much that he's almost the next guy I'm like rooting for beyond Hamilton. I just like the way he is. He's so chilled. He's so laid back. It's like what happens, happens. I'm not too bothered about it. I really like it the way he is, how relaxed he is about everything. Of course, he has his moments, but you know, not only is he an F1 fan living out his dream, but he is brilliant. Um, and I think he deserves everything he's getting. So yeah, I really am happy with Isaac Hadjar. And so yeah, him and Carlos Sainz are certainly my underappreciated, undervalued winners of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Right. Shall we talk about the one subject that no one seems to be talking about? It's sort of connected to actually this picture. The podium picture. And I'm not interested in the guys in the centre, in GP and Max Verstappen. They were incredible, and we will be discussing certain elements that involves Max Verstappen later on. But actually, in regards to Lando Norris and George Russell, and I think we had some this affecting others as well. Reliability. There seems to be a lot of brake issues, power issues that seem to be happening, not to cause a driver to not be able to complete a race, but just to have absolute nightmares with the brake balance, everything like. And I don't. I've got to be honest, I don't know why. Like, is this um what happens when you have the ground effects happening, that because there's more of a reliance on the aerodynamics, that the brakes aren't going to be as strong, or they're not quite there if something goes wrong? I don't know. And if there's someone that's a scientist, please let me know. But you look over this year, the amount of drivers that have had to drive slowly in like the last 10 laps because of issues that they've had, whether that be Hamilton at Singapore, or I'm trying to think of another one right now. Obviously, you had Lando and George here. I think Lando had the same similar problems in China, I think I want to say. Like, this. There's something that seems to be going on with the cars, and I don't know. The one thing it could be, I'm just thinking about it, is the fact that because we've got a brand new formula next year, the brand new technical regulations, all that sort of thing, that maybe they're just not focusing on the cars, and we're just in the cars braking era at the end of the season. I don't know, but yeah, very confusing. I'd be interested to see how many reliability issues are being reported, even if the driver isn't actually um, is still finishing the race. Do you know what I mean? Just a thought. Just a thought. But anyways, let's start talking about the discussions that everyone is talking about, and let's start with the start. That move from Lando Norris on Verstappen. People have been calling this Lando Norris doing a Verstappen on Verstappen. I'm not so sure. See, the normal way, a Verstappen style move is one of two things. Either I'm making the corner, I'm going to make sure you don't make the corner, or neither of us are making the corner. An example of the first one is what Verstappen did to Lando Norris in the US Grand Prix last year in Texas. The pushing him off the track while Verstappen stayed on the track, I believe. Or it might have been the other way around. But, that's sort of forcing someone wide. But certainly did it to Lewis Hamilton in Imola in 2021. And then you've got we're both going off the track, which a good example, and certainly the most extreme example, would be Brazil 2021, right? That sort of, yeah. But ultimately, at the end, with all of this, the most important thing is your opponent has to be off the track, and you have to do all you can to stay on the track, right? Lando Norris made it complicated for Max Verstappen, but ultimately Max Verstappen stayed on the track and Lando Norris went off the track. That's not how you do it. I don't know if Lando was like trying to complicate matters too much, but that is not the way. And do you know what? It prompted a bit of discussion. I was watching this with my dad on the Sunday, and my dad raised the question of like going, I don't think Lando's got the measure of Verstappen this year, surprisingly. And I had to think about it. Has Lando Norris ever got the measure of Max Verstappen? Like, it's great when competing with other drivers, and I think he has shown that he can compete with the majority of drivers on the track. But Max? I don't think they can do it in wheel-to-wheel combat. And I think Max Verstappen's got the better of him. And playing with Lando Norris's head a little bit. Let's put it this way. Would Lando Norris have done that move if it was Oscar Piastri or any other driver? on the front row. He's done it because it's Max Verstappen. And I just don't think Lando Norris has got the bottle to deal with Max Verstappen, which is weird. And the fact is, that would be fine, right? Lando Norris not dealing with Verstappen under normal circumstances. That's fine. We've only got 2 races left. What's the worst that could happen? Well, a few hours after the race, we got an idea on what the worst could happen, because following a double disqualification for McLaren, this is where we are at with the points. There is 24 points between third and first. Max Verstappen is chasing and continuing to chase, pushing and continuing to push. Oscar Piastri struggling, obviously. Now, I can't predict what's going to happen next. I've got to be honest, right? First things first, I've seen memes about how everybody else in the championship, if any one of them takes out Lando Norris, we could genuinely end up in a situation where, like, it's basically winner takes all. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Don't worry, I don't think that's going to happen. But this is too close. With 2 races to go, this is too close. We you know, things are cooking and everything like that. Now, first things first, I've seen comments about people saying this is fixing things, and no, just no, please. Like, conspiracy theories do not belong in Formula One as such. Normally, when there's a conspiracy, such as what's happening with the Felipe Massa situation in 2008, things will eventually get out, right? But just enjoy the seasons as they come, right? Let's deal with that bit in the end. But here's the thing. This is the reason why I don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think they're clever enough. Like, Max Mosley and Bernie Ecclestone, for example, they were clever enough and, let's be honest, devious and evil enough to go, yeah, well, we could do something clever here. We can do something sneaky here. So there's potentially some more credence, let's say, to the conspiracy. But do you really think that people employed by Ben Sulayem, who, let's face it, will employ yes men rather than any thinkers, do you really think they're clever enough to do conspiracy stuff? Really? If they are, then they've obviously done like the biggest acting I've ever seen, because I just don't think they have the capabilities to do it. But even so, like, trying to predict and doctor a championship just doesn't work. Things will always end up twisted, and that is just how a Formula One season is. To quote a certain race director, it's called motor racing. And if McLaren have broken the rules, McLaren have broken the rules. Speaking of rules, though, I wanted to make a side point, because I mentioned about Kimi Antonelli's jump start. There's people mentioning about that. I think the jump start rule needs adjusting. Because here's the thing for me, and I want to mention this, right? A jump start for me is someone that, yes, goes before the lights go green, but continues going. And that is deserving of a penalty. For me, if someone is when I say jump in the start, if someone is literally like almost jumping and causing them to stall, or doing something like Antonelli did, I've looked at that video. It's very slight, very very slight. That's a side point. I do think that rule needs adjusting. Based on the rules, Kimi Anthony did, you know, deserve a penalty, but that rule needs adjusting. But in terms of this, what we're talking about when it comes to the disqualification for McLaren and the skid plates, what are we saying? The skid plates don't matter anymore? Are we going to reinstate the Ferrari results for when they got disqualified? How far are we going to go back here? Like, the skid plate rules are there for a reason, right? And it's a safety aspect, making sure things aren't grinding across the ground. I'm going to guess that there might be like safety reasons, basically. Like, that is the rule. And McLaren didn't follow the rules. Like, what needs to be said, you know? So, yeah, with 2 races to go, there's 24 points in it. Oh, by the way, and a sprint race. So 2.5 races to go. There's 24 points in it. We're still in a situation where any one of those 3 can win. Now, at the start of the season, I was back in Piastri, and I thought he had the capabilities to do it. But I've got to be honest, based on this and based on experience, it is really hard to not see Verstappen winning this title. And I repeat what I said, I think, was it 2 or 3 races ago? Whoever wins this title, because of the circumstances that they're going through, all 3 of them will be a well-deserved champion. Lando Norris for keeping his bottle at the start of the season and maybe getting over this blip that he might be having this race, right? For Oscar Piastri, someone who started so incredibly well but has now fallen off. If he is able to recover his form and get back to where he was at the start of the season, he will deserve it. And if Max Verstappen, the driver for a team that have sacked a CEO, the driver of a team who have let go of a driver, what was it, 5 races into the season? The driver of a team whose teammate is back in 12th, 13th, similar to last season. And a driver of a team where nothing seems to be going right up until, the Italian Grand Prix? And now he's in contention still for the championship with 2.5 races to go? Yeah, Max Verstappen deserves it. This will be a well-deserved 5th championship. And this is the thing, Max Verstappen's skills, I've only ever seen it in 2 other drivers, and that'd be Senna and Schumacher, right? The skill level is there. And he will deserve it. As will Oscar, as will Lando. This is, as a neutral, this is quite fascinating. And I'm looking forward to the next 2.5 races. Yes, we are really, really close to the end of the season. The season could be wrapped up by the next race, but I get the sneaky feeling it won't be. I don't know why. But I suppose we'll wait and see. So, until next week, when we'll be reviewing the Qatar Grand Prix, take care of yourselves. And, yeah, that's all that needs to be said. Take care.